What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. I don't know if you're tired like I'm tired because Harlem Week was off the chain. We had the brunch party, so we did the damn thing this weekend. So it is what it is. We had a great time. And if you're tired like I'm tired. With that being said, I'm going to say all this. The show is sponsored by the Daily Arts of Survival magazine. This is Real Talk Chronicles, sponsored by Ingram Taxes, sponsored by Reggie Wells Quality Speakers. It's sponsored by Melba Wilson, sponsored by Leon Ellis Chocolat. We just had a ball, everybody. With that being said and saying all that, I'm Bill Foster, and this is Real Talk Chronicles. In this segment, we are talking to Dr. Quarter, not the female, the male. I have a beautiful family with a lot of learned doctors, a little joke we have. How was your weekend? I hope your weekend was well. If you're watching it from YouTube, subscribe to it. If you're watching it from Facebook, share it. Please do all that and more. Oh, man. How was your weekend? Mine was busy. It really was. I can honestly say that I'm tired. I'm good. I'm blessed to be tired. See? I got to take the positive energy with that, to be tired. So tonight we'll have Dr. Fred Quarter coming in soon to talk to us about mental health and things of that magnitude. What's going on? Hey, Stefania, how are you? Shout out to everybody chiming in. Calvin, what's up, bro? My main man Calvin's in the building. So let me just run down the itinerary of the shows. The first Monday of the month, we have Assemblyman Al Taylor. The second Monday of the month, we have Dr. Marilyn Quarter. The third Monday of the month, we have the First Lady of Def Jam, Allison Williams. And the fourth Monday this month, we have Dr. Fred Quarter coming in to talk to us. Hey, Keisha, what's going on? How are you? Shout out to everybody that's chiming in, coming in. We had the Row House, the third week of the month, third Saturday of the month, Assorted Flavors and myself, and of course, my wife. Shout out to Ted, Drew, and Arlie. Shout out to Danny D, T-Rock, and a shout out to all of you that came and hung out with us over the weekend. It was definitely a movement. Harlem was on and popping this weekend. Great shows, great lineups. Just shout out to the birthday people. Shout out to those people that's sick and stuck in. Hey, Vanessa, hello from Orlando. What's up, Vanessa? How are you? Glad to be here for a great topic and discussion. Absolutely, Vanessa. With that being said and saying all that, we have Fred Quarter, Dr. Fred Quarter coming in, Marilyn's husband. So I'm trying to, he doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to try to see if I can get him for the last Monday of the month. See if he's, they have both have busy schedules. And hold on, I got a call. Yes, they'll be coming in very shortly, as in T minus a few minutes. Hold on, let's see. Give me 1 second. I have to make sure I send this link again to Fred's phone so he can come in and we can get started. And he should be coming in very soon. So, yes, the show is about to get on and pop in. I'm tired. Yankees Mets series about to go down. The weather is about to rain. It's not going to rain. So let's hold it off. Let's just hope it doesn't happen right now. And that's a good thing. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. I appreciate you all. Fred will be in here in a few minutes. Um, whatever, I always tell you all, whatever topics you ever want to talk about, please send them to me so we can always have that conversation. If you know, I speak to all of you, a lot of you, I should say, sidebar a lot of times, and your topics are very important to me. So I want to be able to discuss things that you want to talk about. So always keep it. I think you already know how real talk gets down already. I'm not talking a lot of buffoonery or nonsense. We talking about real stuff. And if you got real topics, then that's what we're going to do. You know. So I am Bill Forster. This is Real Talk Chronicles. Oh, and Wednesdays, I can't forget Wednesdays. Wednesdays, Kevin, Chuck, and Rich and myself, we get it in. You should see our little sidebar conversations, which are very hilarious. We entertain each other to a certain degree without um, being disrespectful, but we definitely have our banter on the side. And hold on. This is Fred calling me. Fred, you're calling me. Everybody, let's welcome. There he is. Fred Porter is in the building.
Yes, give me 1 minute. I'm getting situated.
Okay, go ahead. I'll mute you until you're ready. Go ahead.
Which way?
Yes, Fred. As you can see, he's busy doing doctor stuff, and that's what's up. When he's ready to come on, we'll definitely chop it up with him. Hey, Cheryl, how are you? They got they always got events uh, going on. That's a busy family, everybody, and I'm so appreciative of them taking the time to talk to us. Fred, give me the thumbs up when you're ready to talk. All right, Fred's ready to come in and talk.
All right, hello.
There he is. Everybody, let me introduce my cousin, Dr. Fred Porter. How are you, Fred?
Very good, very good. Thank you, thank you.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. I've been dying to get you here. Your wife has always been rocking with us, but I wanted to get that other half of that brain trust. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And that's my Capricorn cousin, so we got a lot in common from that aspect. And it's always good to have them. Fred is an accomplished doctor himself, and he brings a plethora of knowledge to anything that he discusses. Fred, just give them a little background on your credentials, please, because I want to brag about you, but I'd rather you do it, and I can say, see, I told you.
Okay, hold on. Marilyn gave me this phone. It promised me that it was charged.
You got to get it.
Ours already.
Oh.
So get a power cord before I get started.
Yeah, right.
On you.
Right.
Hold on.
Yes. So everybody, as Fred gets situated, like I said, he's out of the DMV area, accomplished doctor, a plethora of information. So he's going to bring whatever he can bring to you and give you some. We're going to try to get him back more often. That's the gist of the game, because Real Talk is a family-oriented show, because you have become family to me. And, for you to take time to listen to me makes me just happy. And I just want to say thank you all, because sometimes I get the sidebars, I get the conversations when I run in the street, meet you, I see you in Harlem or wherever I see you at, and you tell me that you appreciate what I'm doing. So as long as you appreciate it, I will keep doing it. And that means the world to me, because positivity is the hardest thing to sell. And when we're given information that can help you save your life from any aspect, from law enforcement, medical, politics, anything that we can do to help you, we are willing.
I am live.
So Fred is back, everybody. That is Dr. Fred Porter.
All right.
So Fred, just give a little rundown on your credentials real quick, and then we can go from there, brother.
Well, I'm the quiet one in the group. I actually hail out of Detroit, Michigan, by way of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up coming here to Washington, D.C. area to go to school, and then got married and never left.
Ain't that something? There
So
you
because of that, I just made the best of being here. So I enjoy being here. I am
go.
actually a pediatrician, board certified pediatrics. In addition to that, I also, if I can control this. I also now in pediatrics, I'm also chairman of the Department of Pediatrics here in Prince George's County. In their, it's now called Cap Regional Hospital. I've been there for the last probably 30 some years. I've been in practice for over 40 years. And so I enjoy general pediatrics. I take care of a whole array of illnesses from premature babies all the way up to 18. Although I'm the one that says that once you turn 18, you got to leave me.
Yeah.
Um, my patients that love me, they don't want to leave, but I says, you're too old. Once you start having adult activities, I kick them out.
Yeah.
And so that's my line.
That's
But
it.
but over the years, I have spent a lot of time basically taking care of children in the DMV. I've worked with the American Academy of Pediatrics. I've worked with the health departments. As a matter of fact, I was a health officer at in Prince George's County for a number of years. Um, so I've sort of done a bit of different things, whether it's administration or whether it's private practice. Um, that's what I've done.
Good, good, good. So, Fred, we had discussed, we were talking last week, was it, or last Monday? I mean, 2 Mondays ago, and we were discussing about mental things. And I wanted you to just go into what you wanted to talk about and give us some idea because crime has seemed like everything crime sometimes it doesn't. I mean, the mental aspect of it, it doesn't start
Okay.
yesterday and you have mental problems, or maybe it can, and maybe it can't. But I'm sure there's a history of mental illness that has transitioned into the adulthood. And let's talk about that from a child state. And if anybody has any questions that we can give Fred, we'll definitely ask if in his time frame. But I want Fred to discuss what we were talking about. He wanted.
Okay.
Go
Well,
ahead, Fred.
one of the things I always talk about is the importance of raising what I call well-balanced children,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a difficult task, believe it or not. I'm often reminded of the story of the prodigal son, where they talk about the son that went off and he went off and he took the money from his inheritance and he goes off and he blows it all and he comes back home and his father greets him. His father greets him and throws a party for him. Well, the other son, nobody talks about him
Mm,
because the other son said, yo, dad, what about me? I stayed here with you.
right.
And the father said in so many words, unto each child you give that what they need. It's not always about doing, quote, the same for all your children.
Okay.
Some children need to go away to develop. Other children need to stay under your wings. And so my biggest thing is always telling parents that it's not so much important that you do the same for all your, but you got to raise what I call well-balanced children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's good to be smart, and Marilyn always gets me about that. Oh, you just don't like smart. No. Smart is good, but you got to be well balanced. You have to have a good interaction with other people.
Mm,
Now, in order to get there, it actually starts with parenting. And unfortunately, parenting these days is not what it used to be. We used to be a more children raised by family, or we often call it the neighborhood or the village. But
yes.
now, children before we got this emancipation that happens sometimes. Women leave home and they say, no, I don't need nobody else. I can do this, which is good that you can take care of yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
the truth of the matter is, trying to create balance can be difficult. Because when you don't create balance, it comes out in the psychological and emotional development of the child.
Okay.
And so, even starting from infancy, it is important how we create that balance in handling our children, how we learn to set limits for them, how we learn to give them positive reinforcement, how we learn to give them negative when it's called for. That you do these things early so children begin to get a sense of where they're supposed to be.
Right. Right.
And as the children are different, some children need to be cuddled. Some children need to be turned loose in the backyard. So that's why I always say you must give to each child that what they need, because this groundwork is what develops into future personality and social and emotional conditions. And
Okay.
so the child who needs to be cuddled, who isn't cuddled, now has a sense of insecurity. The child who needs to be let go, who isn't, is held back, now has this sense of, I just got to get away. And so
Right.
when we see our adolescents and young adults acting out, you have to go back to this early stage. Unfortunately, for most of us, it's impossible to go back and do that, which is why I stay in pediatrics. I keep saying, let's try to work on the generations that come along.
Right. Right. Right.
Because you have to recognize the fact that if your child happens to be the different personality, you must adjust to that, because that's what emotional and psychological development is about, is
Okay.
giving to each child that what they need. Now, when that happens, we get different children and it's hard to kind of deal with them. You get the child who just doesn't want to talk, the child who just sits there and just observes things. And people say, oh, he got a learning problem, or he's something wrong with his it. And there may be some other sort of cognitive functional problems going on, but also that child therefore needs a different way to interact with him. And when we fail to interact with him, that then forces the child to develop alternative ways of reacting. And
Let me ask
so,
you a question, Doc. Let me ask you. A lot of times, does this become part of denial from the parent,
yeah,
from the parental standpoint? Because the things that you're saying, I'm sure if you're in tune to your child and you're witnessing these different behavioral patterns, you need to say, okay, wait a minute, my child is something different. Not just passing it off, or like you said, learning disabilities and things like that. Maybe there is just something challenging. Go ahead, continue, please.
there's two parts. That's a good point. Two parts to that. One, raising children is one of those things where they get so close to your face.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when it's so close to your face, it's difficult for you to see the reality.
Okay.
And that's why a lot of times you hear people say, that's not my child. My child don't do that. Whereby somebody else walks in the room and say, your child has that problem, or something's going on with that. But because they're so close to you, it sometimes makes it difficult for you to see. That's where also, because we're not raising children so much in the family tradition, where mom's involved, dad's involved, grandparents are involved, aunts and uncles. That way, that uncle that doesn't see you every day walks in the house and says, yo, sis, come here. The baby, he's been doing so and so and so and so. What's going on with that? Oh, I never noticed that. But when you're sort of with that child all the time, you sometimes can miss these things.
Okay. Okay.
And so it may not be that in retrospect, it becomes, oh, you're just denying it.
Right. Right.
But it's almost more than that, because your denial is part of you adjusting and living every day. You know, the child that doesn't talk, you want to communicate with them. So you'll do things to communicate with them, not knowing that I'm hindering them from talking more. But I'm saying, well, I know what he wants, so why am I going to let my child just sit there and cry when I know what he wants? Somebody else will walk in and say, he's doing nonverbal communication, and because you're responding to him, he's not developing to the next level of conversation. And so that's why we have to be careful as we sort of raise the children in our own and not have good surrounding support.
So let me ask you a question, Doc. What do we say? Okay, so I'm getting different avenues with this, different doors. So one is about definitely being in tune to your child. Also, I think maybe we can say there's a denial point. And like you said, I can be the uncle that come over and be like, yo, little Billy, he different when I leave with my wife. You know, and I'm be like, yo, the kid is something. Or if I say to you as a family member, like, yo, something, yo, he acting a little funny. The first thing you know, some people can go from a defensive standpoint and be like, "Yo, what are you talking about? You know, you only see him once a month. Right now, he's just shy. He doesn't know you, or he's hungry." You know, I see people always give a reason instead of just saying, "Wow," because and I want to get there eventually with this topic. But what happens is this sometimes could lead to the serial killer or the the child that goes in and shoots up a place, because people have seen the signs and never addressed the signs. But I just want to stay on course with you. But I'm just saying this to say all that. Like you said, you and I, we grew up with villages. You know, little Billy, he didn't do anything. And if I came home and I did something wrong, Miss Corder,
That's right.
Little Billy was cussing in the street, and I got beat. I could have got beat by your parents, but I could have got beat also. I definitely got beat when I got home because you embarrassed me. That village is gone right now. You have children out here at 13, 12 years old with the same kind of phones you and I have.
Yeah.
That's unheard of too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this, like you said, you have to work on the generation that you're dealing with now. So go ahead, please.
Yeah. What I want to do is I'm building up from the infant.
Yes.
Coming up. And so when you start with the infant, it's those little things that we think doesn't matter. The fact that child has a tantrum. How do you respond to the tantrum?
Right.
It's not always that he has a tantrum. It's how do you respond to it?
Okay.
And often the development of that tantrum depends a lot on their response. If everybody responds, oh no, give him what he wants, give him what he wants. Now, when he's 13, he pokes his lip out. Are you gonna give him what he wants? Well, you've been giving him what he wants.
Right.
He's never learned when he started having tantrums that a tantrum, as I tell people, is an attention-getting episode. And a tantrum many times are person-specific. I ask parents all that, who does he have tantrums with the most? Oh, he always have them with me. His father claims he don't have. No, that's true. Because your father responds differently, or the grandfather or the grandmother responds differently. And so the child then learns how I can manipulate my environment. And so as he's learning, you have to almost learn the next step ahead of him.
Okay.
He has a tantrum. Well, is he really hurt? Is he really in distress? Or is this something he's learning to now manipulate? Because this same child who's used to having tantrums getting his way, now you're talking to a 13-year-old who's saying, I can't wear these shoes no more. They got dirt on them. You need to give me some more shoes.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that from?
Yeah.
You gonna blame it on the TV? You gonna blame it on his buddies at school? Or you gonna blame it on the fact that all through his life, he's gotten what he's wanted?
Yeah. I just got a comment. Shout out to everybody chiming. This is Real Talk Chronicles. This segment is Dr. Fred Corder, and we're talking mental issues. Cheryl, shout out to everybody. Kim Felder said, yeah, they know who to play. People, Stefania said, so true. Cheryl White said, this is so true. My great niece is 8 years old and still has tantrums only with her mother. She was talking about. So,
yes, that's what I call person specific. And I can say that to parents because I'm that third party.
Right.
Now see, if you say it, oh, she only do that to you. Oh, you just don't like her.
Right.
But she don't know you that well.
Yeah.
But this is and I'll ask these questions of parents and you see the answers. Okay. But this is where, again, the importance of us raising children in villages, that everybody's involved, that more people are involved, which leads to another issue that we're going to talk about basically with the COVID. But right now, starting early, giving each child that which they need. You cannot give equally to all your children. I'm not saying that you have a favorite child and you should be proud to have a favorite. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that some children need some energies and other children need other things. And the reason you do that is not to have a favorite, but you do that to make certain that their emotional development is to its maximal.
Wow. Everybody, that's Dr. Fred Corder. And this is Real Talk. If you have any questions, please type them in regards to children, because we all were them and we all have them. And we know you may be understanding exactly what he is saying, because some of you probably got some children now that are grown and still throw tantrums with you and still speak to you out of context and say things. And then some of you now are helping raise your grandkids and you're spoiling them. But wait a minute now. You start seeing the behavioral difference. Let's talk about that, Fred. Let's talk about, everybody plays a part in this. I think
Yeah. And that's an important part of it. Now, I always give my kudos to grandparents. I tell my young parents right away that this is not your mother anymore. This is not your father anymore. Once you have a child, God sprinkles them with something. It makes them grandparents.
Yes.
And grandparents are not your parents. This is this baby's grandmother and grandfather. And they act differently.
Yes. Right.
And so I get young adults who get upset with their parents, say, oh, you never treated me like that. Why is no. Because you are not, this is not their child.
Yes.
And so grandparents have a different role to follow.
Yes.
It's not something that has to be taught. It's within our nature. How a grandmother responds and how a mother responds are different. And so we can't get into the point of arguing and fighting with each other. Oh, I'm not going to my mother's or my grandmother's house because they don't know how to act with my child. No. You got to understand that they have a different role. They're secondary raisers of your child.
Yeah.
You are the primary.
And
So we have to
parents
understand
raise
there's
kids
no
to
need
be
for
that
me
way.
to sit there and okay.
No, I was saying, we as
Okay.
parents.
There's no need for me to sit there and argue with grandma. I understand she's grandmother.
Yeah.
And she's going to give him a little bit more to eat.
Yeah.
She's going to hug him up every time he falls. Because that's what grandparents do. I always tell people, when children run away from home, where do we always go?
To the grandparents' house. Yep.
To grandma's house.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
that's what grandmothers do.
Right.
Okay? But on the same token, we have to understand that they do have an insight that as parents, you sometimes miss. Now, everybody has the room of error. There are some crazy grandparents. There's some crazy parents.
Right.
Okay. And so I understand that there are variations in that, but you have to understand the fact that everybody plays a different role.
Yes. Understood.
Now, we do have our difficult situations where something happens with mom and dad and grandparents have to raise the children. And I immediately have to tell the grandparents, you are not this child's grandparent. You can't act like a grandparent. You can't sit there and say, oh, that's so cute. Look at my baby. No, because you're a parent now.
Right. That title has been relinquished.
Okay.
I have a question that came in, Fred. Hold on for a second. Pandora, what's going on since a long time? She said, just wondering, I grew up in the Caribbean island where the entire community was very involved in my life. Also, we keep our children at home as long as they want to. In the U.S., I realized that the parents can't wait until the kid turns 18 just to get them out the house. I also noticed that many of these children failed and have a difficult time in life. Do we try to push our children out too early and not set them up properly before we do?
Okay, now that's a good point. But unfortunately, you do in Rome, you do as the Romans. And you see, in this culture, it's a different scenario. In this culture, there is a greater sense of independence to sometimes our own detriment. But many people, I left home at 19. Okay. But for some people, it doesn't work when they get pushed out like that. But this is a culture that sort of encourages that independence. We don't have, particularly in the Black community. In the Black community, we don't have many of those multi-generational households. Now, if I talk to my Hispanic families, it is not unusual. For grandmother to live down the hall, we live here, and my sister lives over there, right across the hall. You don't see that very often in the Black community.
Yeah.
And
why
so
is that, Fred? I just want to ask you a question. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but why do you think that is? I mean, then maybe that's going a little deeper than what we're talking about. But it seems like as people of African descent, we try to push them away. Like, yo, okay, now I did my it's like working. It's 5 o'clock. I'm punching that clock. Like you're 18, punch that clock. Let me get you off to school. And like you said, in other cultures, that it's more family oriented. Like everybody is up in the same neighborhood. The same with my Latin friends. Some of them still live.
I think it's a social, and I'm getting static here. Let me try to move around. All right. Let me see if I can.
You were good. You were just
let me try to rephrase it. You said, go ahead.
No, I said you probably were getting feedback. You're not getting feedback now from me. So go ahead. That's great.
Okay, that's better. Okay. Yep. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you great. Go ahead. Hear you very good.
I think I hear you. It's me. Okay. All
No,
right.
no, you're good,
So
man.
the question becomes, do we seem to push our children away?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a sociological difference that happens in our culture, in our society, particularly in the Black community, which this is what I take care of 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
We do have that sense of developing more independence, and sometimes, yes, to detriment sometimes. But this is the way of the culture, in that we do tend to want our children to move on. We want them to sort of be in the next. We used to be a culture going back 3 generations where everybody had a family house. People came back to that house. You don't see that as much now. And is that good or bad? I'm not into saying good or bad. It's a reality of life.
Right, right,
And so
right.
we have to learn to deal with that reality. And then from that, going back to our topic of taking care of children, how do I
Mm-hmm.
make certain that I'm not shortchanging my children in terms of their social, emotional development?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, if you tend to be the person who's off taking care of your child on your own, whether it's guys or women, you have to be able to recognize the need for other interventions.
Yeah. And you said something earlier, and I know I don't want to skip around too much, but we said something earlier when we were talking about raising the child. Now, there are some people that have come from uh, harder parents than others. Some people have coddled
Mm-hmm.
their children more. Um, Sometimes we hear the success stories. Because of this situation, I I focused and I did this to be a better person because I didn't want to be like my parents or whatever like that. But then there's some people when we look at the generation today, a lot of the youth from a law enforcement standpoint are committing these crimes. They're
Mm-hmm.
just acting all out of character. Where I've seen street people tell me, like, yo, I wish the police would do something. This new generation has lost their mind because there was a code of ethics in how to interact with law enforcement, even from a criminal standpoint, not even just a John Q standpoint. So I say all that to say, is this something happening in? I think you might have said it earlier. So excuse me. You said parental, how we're raising these children different from being reprimanded instead of like, you and I grew up in an era where a parent said, go get the switch, go get the belt. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Well,
know what
you
go
gotta
ahead.
you gotta think about a couple of things that's happened, and I don't want to be one of these um, um, uh, folks who come up with the theories of the man messed us up, but we have had a destruction of the family structure.
Right. Yes.
And as you get a destruction of the family structure, it interferes with child rearing.
Okay.
Men have a different effect on children than women do,
Yes.
which is why, for some reason, God decided we have mothers and fathers. And so when I see children come in, if I walk in a room, I can have a totally different effect because I'm a man.
Yes.
My
Yes.
wife walks in, it's a different effect because she's a woman.
Yes.
Now, when you end up with households where either neither of them are there, it interferes with the development. It interferes with the sense of respect.
Mm.
And if you don't develop that sense of respect early on, the child says, I don't, I don't have to listen to anybody. Now, if there's a man in the house, it is unusual that a child has a sense of I don't have to listen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always tell people, particularly for my boys, that testosterone is a great hormone. It makes you quick, it makes you strong. But the one thing that testosterone responds to is more testosterone.
Right. Right. Right.
So little boy jumps up, what are you doing, mama? You can't tell me. The father looks over at him. What? That what transmits more than just a what. It's
Yeah.
an emotional, guttural interaction. So the boy's development changes on that. When that isn't there, nobody has ever blocked him. And so now you grow up where nobody has ever challenged you. You go out in the street and the police stop you and it becomes, what? How you dare you stop me? Who are you?
Mm.
Because I never had that sense of being taught a limit from a force. Now the police is that new force. And because, like you said, every officer wants to go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you go out there, the young man jumps out. What you mean you stop me? I can't be doing like that. And we all know I'm from Detroit. I grew up in Detroit, 8 Mile Road, real 8 Mile Road.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody knows that you don't know who's carrying the heat.
Right. Right.
And so somebody jump out. Hey, I'm going home today.
Right. Right.
So then the guy gets shot. And he says, oh, you shouldn't have shot him. Well, hey, in this hood, in this neighborhood, you don't sit in the car and say, hey, if I get stopped, I sit there, I put my hands on the wheel, I wait for the officer to come up to my car. I roll my window down slowly and I say, yes, sir. What's the problem?
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm from a neighborhood where I know what's going on. I jump out here because I've learned limits. But when you don't learn the limits, it becomes, you stop me, you interfere, yo, I'm going to front you. So we see a difference in the development that from the raising.
Yes.
And so this is why it is important that we do have both women and men involved in rearing children, because that helps to improve that balance. I'm not saying you need to go out and get beat up. No. I don't. I'm also from the hood. Hey, yo, you want to fight? It's on.
Yeah, let's get it on. Exactly.
Okay, I might lose, but hey, you can't say you just walked over me.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You just ain't go. You got to bring ass to get ass.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
But this is where that balance comes in at.
Yes.
Okay, my time is almost up. Let me hit on one other part I really want to talk about, and that's COVID.
Go ahead. I just want to read some comments too before you go too. Go ahead.
Okay, COVID is an interesting scenario because what COVID has done for us, it actually locked our children into the house with us. Now, the problem for that, particularly in young children, is that they didn't get an exposure to anyone else.
Right.
And so when you're locked with somebody all the time, you almost learn to accept them at the point of lock-in. So I have children who have delayed social development because when they went into COVID, they were an infant. And now they're coming out from the emotional standpoint, they're still that infant at home. And so I have a lot of children who are coming out not speaking well, not interacting with other people well, and they're being sent for evaluations of autism, of speech delay. And the question that has come up is this truly autism? Are these some social deprivations that have happened?
Wow.
And so this is a new thing in terms of our development of our children, in the misdevelopment that has happened because of that lack of proper social exposures.
That's deep. That's deep. I just want to read these two comments, and hopefully you'll come back soon in the future and give us a part 2 of this.
Okay.
Cheryl White said, that's something I never understood. I've never told my children that they had to leave the home at 18 years old. Never told them to pay a bill or never will. My mom and I lived in the same building and have good, solid foundation, and they're thriving. That's good, Cheryl. Colin, he said, over the past 13 years, I've seen this young lady in my neighborhood raising a boy, and every time when she's speaking to him or disciplining him, she's constantly using the F-bomb. Now that he's about 14, he constantly uses F-bomb when speaking with her and others. Now she seems embarrassed. He probably thought that's how you communicate.
Yeah. You know the old saying, do as I say and not as I do? It doesn't work for children.
Right.
Okay. And so, yeah, everybody has we all speak a couple of different languages. If you and I hanging out, hey, my language is a different language.
Yes.
Okay. If I'm in the hospital, my language is a different language. Yes. If I'm around young children, my language is a different language. And sometimes people are like, oh, I can't be fake. No. I'm raising a child. Yes. And when raising a child, I have to understand that I'm imprinting on them what they are going to become. And I get people telling me that, oh, no, I don't want to tell them how to be. Why do you think you're the parent?
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, this is a child that came into the world with zero information. And the one who is number one and sort of filling that information is you. And so it is important for us to tell our children, this is not what, this is what should be. This is how you act. This is the interaction. And if you start that early, you're not sitting there with a 10-year-old trying to tell him why he shouldn't be cursing out grown people. because he understood when he was 5 what the conversation is supposed to be, how you're supposed to be interacting, how you're supposed to act.
Everybody, that's Dr. Fred Quarter. Welcome. Ask him to come back. Put the thumbs up. Fred is tagging, so maybe he'll come back and reply to some of your comments. Fred, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And coming from the hills of Mississippi, I appreciate the time. Catch y'all the next time.
All right, cuz. Talk to you soon, brother.
All right, thank you much. All right, bye-bye.
All right. Everybody, that was Dr. Fred Quarter giving us his insight. What's your thoughts and comments? Yo, he was having some real talk with us. You know what I'm trying to say? You know, I guess it's not even so easy to think of it like you said. You know, Colin, that was a great point you said. Mama walking down the street, effing this kid to death, and now this kid is 14 and he's effing everybody else to death, and she's looking like, wow, what happened? I didn't bring you up that way. Well, maybe you did. And Cheryl, you know, that was a great point, like you said. You know, there isn't anything wrong with keeping the structure tight until they're ready to move on. You know, I think there's a difference in leaving and not leaving. For those that are just chiming in, please go back and look at the beginning of this. We had Dr. Fred Quarter, Marilyn's husband, my cousin. Listen, if he goes and looks at it, let's see if we can get him in on the last Monday of the month and, you know, get his perspective on other things. Because the beautiful thing about having 2 doctors, and I converse with them, different perspectives. I mean, they may have the answer for the common cold in one perspective, but the bottom line is, you know, you might hear it a different way, where one may say it one way and one may say the other, and you may not grasp it. Because how many times you talk to your significant other and you don't hear it, and then you talk to your boy, your girl, and they said the same thing your wife or your husband said, and you'd be like, yeah, that's true. I messed up. You know what I'm saying? So let's kind of let's try to get Fred back. Really, I'm really gonna work on that, and I want you to work on that. So please give some love for Dr. Fred Quarter. What was your thoughts on it? You know what I'm saying? Like, we do need men in the households. You know, I've always heard that, because I think, you know, we've all come from a household where maybe the father was working to provide food for his family, a living, and the mother raised the child a lot, but you may have known who your father was. I was just having a good conversation with that friend of mine today, and we were talking about our upbringing. For those that are my Facebook friends, I was hanging out with my tier 1 dudes, and I call them tier 1s because those are the guys that known me so young, and we're still friends today. There's, you know, if you're my friend, you're my friend, and I got love for you. I love you, but it's just that's that tier 1 that has known the Bill Lee. You know what I'm trying to say now? You know, you all may know the Bill. You know, everybody has different stages in life, so I just call them tier 1 friends. With that being said, you know, like you said, Veronica, cursing at your children is never a good thing. I don't like it at all. I want to say something, but society is crazy now. You're right. It's crazy when I've seen a parent cursing at a child like an adult. And then they start off with, what the F is wrong with you? Like, yo, that child is a baby. He doesn't know. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, you know, let's put one foot in front of the other. You know, it's not like the child did something so terrible. Maybe you need to change his pamper and he's crying for a reason. Did you check? I'm just using that as an example. I don't know. Maybe he's hungry, you know, and he said, "Ma, you know, we come on the last minute," and I'm defending this child, so I don't want you to think I'm saying anything like the mothers or fathers, anybody is right, but to hear a parent curse at a child, like the curse is the spanking, it's crazy. That we have to definitely knock that off. That's a bad look, you know. Thank you, Stefania. Yeah, he's definitely acknowledged we will bring him back. Yeah, Mark said, I have some homework to do. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, like you said, Veronica, yes, and they don't know what you are talking about. Them kids definitely don't know. Uh, the internet is terrific. It's really slow tonight. Uh, the internet traffic is very slow. I'm sorry to hear that. Tracy said, you also have children raising children. They're not planned pregnancies, and the child may be seen as an inconvenience burden. You're right. You're right. But you know what's so funny, Trace? Um, like he said, I guess his times have changed because some of us could have been inconveniences. You know what I'm saying? And I think we're here to this day, and we've learned. And like I said, I was talking to my tier one today, and we were just chopping it up, and we just saying, if you didn't learn it at home, you learned it in school. You learned it from your friends. So a lot of that happens because we've all had children that may have not as been as fortunate, or their parents were working hours and they were so glad that they hung out with you, and the parent knew that, you know, as an inconvenience, their child was hanging with you, but your parent may have said, well, yo, I'm not going to let that child be hungry. I was thinking about one of my childhood friends, and one day we ran into each other, and I could see he's a little different now. And I say different, just not where we thought he was. He was the dude on the block. He was Mr. Everything, right? And one day we were just talking, and he's like, yo, you're the man. And I was like, okay. Then I was like, well, you know, like that 50 Cent, yo, damn, homie, you know, used to be the man, homie. And I asked him, like, what happened? He said, yo, B, back then when we was kids, he said, you know why I hung out late? He said, because my mother didn't care. And I was like, what? He said, I was hungry or whatever, stuff like that. So then I said, well, yo, I said, out of all our friends, you could have, if you would have gave us some kind of inkling, you could have came to our house to eat. Like, you never had to just hang out because nobody cared. And I think it was just a crazy story that we were hearing that. And like when he was telling me that, because I'm saying like, yo, dude, I thought you was just hanging to hang. And, you know, here we're being envious of you because like you could hang out past 9 o'clock. And he's saying, you don't know how bad I wanted to come upstairs. But he says, nobody cared about me upstairs. There wasn't anything for me to eat or do. And I was like, wow. So we need to understand sometimes, see the signs. Things are different to this day. You know, you don't want your kid to come upstairs and your friend stealing from you, stuff like that. Curtis said, as an EMS worker, we picked up a child that was 14 years old and had 2 kids. Can't make this up. Wow, how terrible. How terrible is that? That's very sad. Colin said, I'm out, folks. See you on Wednesday evening. Take care, Colin. I'll talk to you later. We're going to be out in a few minutes too, everybody. But it's just that you just want to chop. Mark said, Bill, oftentimes it's ignorance raising ignorance. Yeah, man, it definitely is. Um, Curtis said, if you're with a lady that was raised with no father, once the baby comes, she wants to be both. Okay. Let me think about that. In my dating experiences, I haven't experienced that. I think she's very protective. Women that I've dated and have children, they're very protective, of course, because you don't know what this man is, somebody you're getting to know and you're dating, and you want to trust him, and you're dating him, because sometimes women, you have to date men and hope, in lieu of hoping he can be a good father. You don't want to date nobody. I mean, we've seen the movies and stuff where the mama just wants a man, and he's sitting on the couch drinking a beer in a wife beater. You know what I'm saying? And he looking at the boy, and the boy's like, "Yo, mom, you talking to this loser, and you stressing me out?" Like, so women have to be very careful in who you date, because you want to have a good role model for their children. And I think that's very important. Tracy said, you also have children raising children. Yep. Veronica said, it's that bring your ass on for me. Exactly. Yeah, that's crazy. Uh, so you know, it's crazy. Vanessa said, my concern about our children these days is our compensating for things lacking, like dad not at home with material things in the ATL. I have seen parents buy their children designing bags worth hundreds of dollars, buying them expensive cars, and they become entitled. How does this pay out? This play out as they grow up to adults. Uh, we'll make sure we'll ask Fred that question. Me personally, like I said, is once you start giving people stuff that they feel entitled to, excuse me, they're going to do something to get that continuously. It's like that hella hot water. I'm going to either get it or take it, or I think the days of when I was growing up, like if one of my friends told me they had a summer job, like you ain't going to out success me. You know what I'm saying? Like my crew was like, "What? You working at 14? Well, I'm gonna get a job at 14. Just because you're working. If you get your driver's license, your learner's permit, then I'm gonna get my learner's permit. If we're gonna like we tried out for the same basketball or the baseball team, like we all tried to like successfully outdo each other with uh mutual respect. It wasn't a it's crazy. It's crazy. Like that's what it is. Uh, what's up, Kev? He said, I'm sorry I chimed in late, but I will check out the entire post later. Continue to be great. Great job. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. Um, and we had Dr. Fred Quarter on. Thank you for, as you can see, I'm so appreciative. You can see he's at an event, so he can only give us, with 40 minutes of himself or whatever time he gave, but it was so appreciative. And, the show is sponsored by the Daily Arts of Survival magazine, Ingram Taxes, Reggie Wells Quality Speakers, Melba Wilson, Leon Ellis Chocolat, and Soft Illusions Art Gallery. How can I forget that? So I say all these things. The children are the future. For those that know, I've done hundreds of speaking engagements at schools, and I still will if when I'm called to go back. The pandemic slowed a lot of things back, and I still see a lot of my uh, fellow friends and brothers when they get the opportunities to do that. And sometimes it's not feasible for have multiple speakers unless depending on the time slots and the size. But I say all that to say, I always try to. I start off telling the kids that I ask them what they want to be, and I tell them you can be anything you want to. You choose your path. Some like okay after the class, oh I want to be law enforcement, and I try to come at them from an African American, and law enforcement was my profession. I don't want to come in there with the suit and a tie because then they're going to see a detective. I've done a lot of mentoring programs, and I never wanted to give them a false hope of something that's not at home. I wanted to give them something that they could reach out and close to touch. So a lot of times, even when I did the Blue Nile and we dressed up in our African garb, I kind of rebelled against that respectfully because they're not going home seeing a black man in African garb in their house, but they will go home and see a black man or a Spanish man or a white man, whomever. Just if there's a man in the house with maybe a sweatshirt on and some sneakers or some Timbs, so they can relate to that faster than they can relate to seeing another African American in some African garb, and they're looking like they come into the Blue Nile and they don't even want to wear the African garb first and foremost. So we rebel. Nobody wants to wear uniforms at work. We always try to alter the uniform, things of that magnitude. Anytime we go into anything structured, you're gonna find somebody that's like, oh, well, I gotta wear this corny uniform and stuff like that. Then I'll be like, well, why you gotta take the corny check? You don't have to do it. Take the shit off, go home, quit. You know what I'm saying? Veronica, so true, Bill. So many children, young adults will do anything to continue to get that high end stuff, especially when it's given to them early and they don't know work for it. That's just my opinion. Absolutely. And then, you know, it's so funny if you look at the differences between the rappers and the artists from our generation to the new ones and stuff. Like some of them are still blinged out. Like if an artist is 50 years old and he's still talking gangster, really? You know what I'm saying? But we a lot of us like the brainless TV that's more uncomfortable to us because after a long day of working, dealing with relationship, financial, professional situations, the last thing you want to come home and think about some shit. So you want to come home and watch somebody else's problems, i.e., soap operas when a lot of us was growing up. You know, All My Children, As the World Turns, Young and the Restless. Remember, like all these names, Loving, General Hospital. Everybody know, what was it, Jesse and Angie and all that. So you knew that. So, I mean, it's just a different version now. It's Housewives of this and cheating this and ratchets this. But, you know, the artists that are talking some positive and comment and empowerment stuff, you don't hear them. We got to change that, everybody. Tracy said, for some, it's a financial thing as well. When you have mothers that are overworked trying to maintain the home, and unfortunately, the mentality as the child gets older becomes, I got mine. Now you get out there and make a way for yourself. The family dynamics in some others is not the same anymore. You're right, and I think that's what a lot of us do. We work hard and to push them out there because we was like, I know a lot of women who be like, yo, I want to live my life now. I did all this. And, you try to blend in men and, you can't find a babysitter. And they say, you out there dropping it like it's hot with your child. Your child 20, your child 18 and you 38. And y'all both out there on the same dance floor. Some people, and I'm not talking about because you're tight. I'm just talking about because both of y'all still want to be in the same spot. You know what I'm saying? Because one life hasn't been lived and the other one is just watching how you're trying to live yours. Two different things, Curtis said, if Trump became president, and anything can come true. Absolutely, bro. Facts. Yep. You ain't lying about that. What up, Curtis? My brother, Curtis Ollie and Curtis Dancy, my guys. Shout out to all of you. What's up, Terrence Gatlin in the building. My guys, appreciate you all. This is real talk, man. We about to get out of here. We had Dr. Fred Quarter. Please go back and watch it, share it, subscribe to it. He was dropping some jewels. You can chop it up. We can always chop it up. You got topics, you know how to reach me. Either text me, inbox me, DM me, whatever the words are. And we're just going to keep it 100. One thing you're going to get some real talk. I look forward to seeing you Wednesday. Please be safe. Be careful. There's so much different shit out here in the world. And it's like ducking it and dodging it. Just be careful. I mean, from the criminal aspect of it, from the medical aspect of it, from your own health ways that you need to carry yourself, just be careful. I am Bill Forster. I appreciate you, my RCT family, and I will see you Wednesday. Peace. Talk to you soon.